Hello, it is the Saturday of the fourth week of Lent. and that would be April 5th, 2025, Social Saturday. And so, cold air came through with some rain, and I really had a morning, just a peaceful nap. I was up last night. Um, with a friend in Connecticut, right? That's an Aggie, and we had planned to talk, and talking to me, takes a while, uh, because I ask questions, you ask questions, and there's banter back and forth. So, how exactly do being pagan and when I think about Easter, I think of just everything blooming. But before anything can bloom, a seed has to be planted, and that seed has to take root. So, uh, spring is just a time, uh, as people plant gardens, some seedlings pop up. For me, I didn't know I was an arborist. um, I just had a friend who was mowing my yard one spring, and he noticed um, these little saplings which were mesquite. Today, I'm actually allergic to mesquite. However, uh, uh, my friend asked me if I wanted to have trees. All we had to do is just mow around them, and eventually those trees would take root. And so, yeah, so it's been a decade, and now I have a lot of mesquite trees in my yard. And I remember once when they were saplings. So when I read out of Radical Grace by he talks about Jesus saves. And this is out of Acts 3 1 through 6. Once, when Peter and John were going to the temple for the prayers at the ninth hour, it happened that there was a man being carried past. He was a cripple from birth, and they used to put him down every day near the temple entrance called the Beautiful Gate, so that he could beg from the people going in. When this man saw Peter and John on their way into the temple, he begged from them. Both Peter and John looked straight at him and said, "Look at us." He turned to them expectantly, hoping to get something from them, but Peter said, remember, Louisa means warrior, Parson, P as in Peter, Arson, means priest. Peter said, "I have neither silver nor gold." That is very true for me. But I will give you what I have. In the name of Jesus Christ, The Nazarene walk! Exclamation mark. Um, and so that's Peter, the rock of the church, which happens to be the Roman Catholic Church, right? And hmm. So, I'll tell you a story. I did go to Rome on a med cruise while I was in the Navy. Um, it was the first time I was on the train. So we were ported in Gaeta, had to take a bus to Formia, and then from Formia, we got on the train to Rome. And in Rome was the first time that I was on a subway to go to the Vatican. Okay, my experience at the Vatican was kind of, um, it was a Sunday and the Pope was there. But in order to see the Pope, we had to go up this spiral um, staircase that was very cramped and damp. Um, and it was kind of like, it was like stairs, kind of wrapped inside. It seemed like dirt, but the closer you look, there was just gold in the brick. And I'm like, wow, gold in the brick, right? Not fool's gold. I mean, there was gold in the brick. So, my impression of the Vatican is wow, even up this damp staircase, we kind of ended up like in a bird's nest kind of situation. And I could see a wee tiny Pope, right? I'm doing mass, but the lasting impression was that gold. So, so further on, um, Richard Rohr talks about uh, it says, the lame of the world still come to the body of Christ, which is the church, and look at us expectantly, the Roman Catholic Church, as they looked at Peter and John, hoping to get something from us. What does the church, capital C, say to them in many and varied forms? Quotation marks. Silver and gold we have plenty of. Yeah, I saw that in person. Come join our parish. And here in Abilene, I, did come to a parish of a Franciscan order. Okay, um, we have a credit union. I didn't get that message. Very democratic. Yes, I did get that message. And we have a pastoral council. Yes. Um, I saw a flyer for Steubenville, right? We have a guitar mass. Yes, I witnessed that during, uh, I'd say, Christmas Eve. We're very avant garde, hanging banners in our church. I did witness that. We're up to date and will meet your every need. They did not. We have a St. Vincent de Paul Society. And yes, I mean, I was more involved with St. Vincent de Paul and, being a volunteer way before I came to the church because the bishop was running the thrift store. So I knew him as a man way before I ever visited um, St. Francis of Assisi here in Abilene. So I thought I'd give it a try. Um, I got all the one day because I love the one in Abilene because the books are reasonably priced, and a lot of times I find recovery literature there. Um, so I made it a habit. This year I have not gone because I bought so much. I bought so much in December, and I'm still going through those books. And um, but I say all of that to say this. So a lot of people confess that Jesus Christ is their Lord, right? Um, man, I can't do it anymore. Because after you reading all, a lot of Protestant literature, some Catholic. I really like Catholic literature just because of the history, and I do love Richard Rohr. I have watched a lot of his talks, and I love his interviews, right? And as he gets older, I love him more, right? Um, being part of the um, being part of the contemplative prayer movement, right? So, and I was able, to be a part of a small group that was suggested to me about. I guess it was 3 years ago now, maybe. Actually, it, it was suggested. I guess it's going on 5 because I met a man that told me about it um, before I had my uterus removed because I had uterine cancer. So it made sense, to try some contemplative prayer after I had gone through, to me, that a major surgery. Um, Sometimes for pets, I always forget what spade or neuter is, but for like a female pet, dog or cat, um, that's a hysterectomy. I just, yeah, you know, and so that, it's a hysterectomy. And I never really thought about it that way, when Bob Barker on Price is Right was promoting spade and neuter, um, for a male dog, it's just, the removal of his testicles. But, for, a female cat or dog, it's a hysterectomy. So, but I was never around female dogs until recently. I met, and, she was just coming, she was coming of age. And it reminded me, wow, just coming of age, right? But it's a little bit different for a female. And then when those organs are removed, it's way different. But we're expected to behave, right? When as females we no longer are able to bear children. And some women never had that opportunity to bear children, right? But I had 4. So I'm blessed, right? Because in reality, there's some women that never could. And so, who's the bitch, right? Who's the bitch in all of this? you know? Yeah, just all the cat scratch fever between women. And what is it usually about? It's about uh, you know, the coming of age and how what is our place in society when we're no longer childbearing. What's our place? Yeah. As a widow, I've been in two marriages, right? So I became widowed at my second marriage. And, we got together not on the premise of having children because both of us had our children, right? So it was a different kind of relationship. We actually got together because both of us um, chose to continue to be sober, and both of us wanted to be together with housing, and that was able to happen, and we were able to get a home together. Um, and I still live in that home. Once I owned it, and then during cancer, I had to sell it back to the man who is Russian. um, and since this time after cancer, it's been it's been a it's been a struggle because I just have not chosen to have a man in my life to help me pay my bills because um prior to my diagnosis with cancer, I did, and I realized you know it wasn't really important to share a home with someone that chose to drink, right? And I just wanted some peace. I mean, pretty much being a widow, I just wanted to have peace, and I was willing to help somebody else find peace, but he just could not with me. And yada, 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 right? So let him move forward. Let me move forward. But I'm coming across more women like me, and they're angry. I know that anger because I was. And you just have a choice, um in our society today, it's find another man to marry. And I don't know, man. um do I marry someone just so I can pay my bills? um I did it once before. and and then he passed away from cancer. So and I'm a cancer survivor. However, a lot of people, a lot of men are aware, okay, she's already had cancer, so there's always going to be, especially, men that um have been with women that have had cancer. They know it's going to come back. So it's like, do they want that? Do they want to go through that experience again? No, they don't. And so, what's my alternative? Uh, I get back on a chat line, right? And and I just meet men, right? And I have these discussions with them, and there's just like some older men out there that are alone after marriages, um, and a lot of them are close to their 70s, and yeah, a variety of ways that men compensate for not having a woman in their bed, right? And as they're getting older, you know, how do they how do they walk? How do they walk in this belief system that there is a Jesus Christ of Nazarene, right? For me, I went back to the stars, and then, you know, and I just learned about how the stars have navigated so many religions with the theme of the Southern Cross, which is just there's three kings, which is Orion's belt and Sirius, and how in the winter solstice, the way the sun rises and it kind of dips back down and then comes back up, and there's been so much written about that astrological event that happens every year around December 25th, and a whole Christ story in so many different religions over just something as natural as that. So, what are okay, is there a Santa Claus? Well, us adults know there isn't. So when are we going to really be mature about, is there a Jesus Christ? When are we going to give merit to astrological charts where many countries know that, right? So I can't do it anymore. But just because I can't do it anymore does not mean I can't be a part of a society and be kinder, right? But don't come at me saying Jesus Christ and that's, your permission to do anything you want. It's don't come at me because all of a sudden you're ordained a pastor and you can do anything you want. All right? Come on, man. With me, just don't do it. Because I continually see women crying, you know, having fathers as pastors, and how they came into this earth, innocently adopted into, a Christian family, and then, they're thrown away. Um, it happened to my mother. So, what, you know, what, am I just going to pretend in this mystical figure of Jesus Christ when all it is about silver and gold and who has power? And the only way they can have power is if I believe. I'm not doing it anymore. And there's freedom in that. There's a lot of freedom in that. I just ain't going to do it anymore. So, I still can live without believing in a mythical figure that we know as Jesus Christ. Very bold. I had to give up Santa Claus because I saw my parents. I caught them in action. And I can't do it anymore with so many women suffering because they're not good enough. Because their fathers told them they weren't good enough and they were members or members of the clergy and had power over them. And these women are just saying, you know what? You're just not going to do that to me anymore. And I'm not doing it either. I stand with those women. And I love me some Beth Moore. you know, I mean, whatever it is, right? Um, I just have to deal. I just have to deal with life without a uterus and some ovaries, man. Just don't put morality into it, and I'll be just fine with that. So I end with that as we come into Jesus Saves, the Saturday before the fifth Sunday of Lent. Peace out.